computer. This is like brand new for me. So I'm recording right now. So don't say anything you don't want to say. Want people to hear. So I'm Quentin Lee. I'm the producer of Searching for Anna May Wong, and I just have a housekeeping item to talk to you guys about. It's that I just received an email from Lemley yesterday saying that theaters are not going to be open on time for our theatrical. So unfortunately, we're not going to be premiering theatrically on the 20th, but we have moved up the streaming release date to November 20th. So and by SVOD it's going to be on AsianAmericanMovies.com, and then TVOD is going to be on Amazon Instant Video. So that's the news of the day. And go to Natasha.
Hi, I'm Natasha. I am an actor. I'm obviously in the documentary. I'm just quarantining right now. I got a cat and he's sleeping. I just got him a few weeks ago. His name is Kit Kat. Super cute. I guess that, I don't know if there's anything else I should share about myself, but that's me right now.
How about Amy?
I'm Amy Hill, and I'm an actor. I'm currently blessed to be working on Magnum PI. We are shooting, so I have a job. And I feel fortunate about that. And also, I'm located in Honolulu, which is has very low COVID cases, which makes me very happy as well. It's very nice to be here, I have to say. And it was a privilege to be a part of this documentary.
Matt?
Hi, I'm Matt Rivera. I am the publicist for the film, and I'll be moderating and taking questions from any journalists.
Kurt?
Hi, my name is Kurt Sanchez Kanzawa. I am an actor. I started off as an opera singer and then became an actor. And now I'm here in Los Angeles in quarantine, made a bad gym purchase, and everything else is good.
Albert?
Hi, my name is Albert Park. I'm an actor. I was asked to be a part of this project by Natasha and Quentin, and I'm happy to be here. Yeah, I'm very happy to be here. The reason for these is because I have 2 children in the next room, so apologies for that if you guys hear that. So thanks for having me.
And Anthony?
How's it going, guys? My name is Anthony Ma. I'm an actor. I also have a kid over here. I don't have my headphones on, so if you hear him, he's watching Masha and the Bear.
How old is the kid?
He's a year. He's a year now.
Oh, congratulations.
Wow. Yeah, thank you.
Mine's 4.
Yeah, very happy to be here with you guys. Very honored.
Well, thank you for coming to this press conference. So I'm just going to tell you the story, my involvement with the film. So around 2017, a filmmaker, Z. Eric Yang, came to me and he said, well, I have this idea. I want to do this documentary on Asian American actors. And I know you work with a lot of them. And do you think you can produce it and help me with it? I said, sure. And so, we started interviewing anyone from Sandra Oh to Taima to contacts between me and Eric. We interviewed maybe like about 20 talents. And then a year later, he's supposed to edit it. And then he says, I quite have no idea what to do with this footage. I said, Eric, are you kidding me? And then I thought, well, you know what? I'll give him I'd let him wait it out and see what he's going to do. And then another year passed by, 2 years down the road. I reached out to Eric, say, hey, you know what? If you're not doing anything with it, can I take the footage and try to finish this film? And he said, sure, go ahead. So he gave me the footage. He dropped me off the drive of like about 40 hours of footage. And I'm just kind of sitting at it and not sure what to do with it. And I got another editor on board and he sat on it for 6 months, never did anything. So I finally, beginning of this year, reached out to Denise Chen, who's a friend of mine and an editor and a director, producer. I knew her back like 20 years ago from Singapore. She was a producer at Discovery Channel. And I said, Denise, do you think you can cut this together? Because, you can have a co-director's credit and, it'll be really great for your career. And she sort of like, took on the plunge and started cutting. And then, and that basically brings us to now that we finally finished the film 3 years after. And then actually Denise also brought up that, well, you know what? the film has evolved so much that in the beginning it's more about Asian American actors. We tried to do the Anna May Wong angle. So we interviewed Anna Wong, who's the grandniece of Anna May Wong. And then it sort of shifted more towards a personal story about Natasha's personal struggle. And so at the end of the day, you know, it's really Denise and Natasha saved the movie because we're able to finish because they're able to open up and let us tell their stories, tell your story, Natasha. So I'm going to pass it on to you and you can talk a little bit about your involvement and your story and the drama.
Okay. So I initially found out about this documentary through Z. Eric Yang, and I actually auditioned for a feature film that he and Quentin were working on called Crossing. And during the audition process, he sent me an email asking if I was interested in taking part in a documentary and interviewing a bunch of Asian and Asian American actors. And I thought, that sounds like really cool. Like you all have gotten like such a great group of people together and like, yeah, I would love to interview them. I wasn't really sure what was gonna happen. But yeah, we just went all across LA going to people's homes and interviewing them and just on the fly, just shooting all these interviews. And yeah, after like Quentin said, like we did a bunch of interviews and I got to interview Amy Hill, who's right here, and Sandra Oh, and James Hong, and like a bunch of super cool people, Lance Lim. And I was really excited about it, but yeah, a year went by, another year went by, and I was like, what's gonna happen with this project? I don't know. And then Eric told me that he wasn't on board anymore, and I got really worried and just kept waiting. And then during quarantine, of all times, Quentin reached out to me, and Denise did as well, and they said, okay, the last piece of this puzzle that we need is your story because we think that's the only thing that can connect all these puzzle pieces together. And I was like, okay, sure, what do you need? So we did a Zoom call and then another Zoom call and an interview and a bunch of other stuff over the internet, which is how we're here today. But yeah, I think it's just really interesting how things work in LA. Like one day you could just be auditioning for one thing and like they could ask you to do other stuff and yeah, kind of magical, I guess.
Great. How about we go to Anthony, because I know you got involved quite early on and actually Eric brought you on and I wasn't even at the shoot.
Yeah, Eric. I haven't heard from him. Right. Yeah, so Eric, I can't quite remember when I bumped into him or how I bumped into him, but he asked me if I could be a part of this project. I was like, great idea. He asked me if I knew Natasha. I was like, I love Natasha. I knew her, you know. And oh, do you know Quentin? I love Quentin. I'm like, come on, I know these people. You know, this Asian American community can be quite small, so we're all rubbing shoulders quite often. So yeah, it was just a no-brainer. Of course, I would come on and share my experience. Yeah, and I'm very, very happy that at least someone picked up the slack and just finished this because I've been waiting, and yeah, thank you, Quentin. This is great.
Sure. And Kurt, and you can talk a little bit about your involvement because I know you guys shot a play and you guys did a bunch of stuff that I actually wasn't there shooting.
Yeah, Eric actually, I was introduced to the Eric Yang through Natasha. I used to pre-quarantine do a lot of readings. I just hosted them. We host a lot of writers and prioritize BIPOC writers and actors as well. And Natasha had her script read actually, the Jiwoo, which is the one that's also featured in the documentary. And so Eric came and filmed the whole reading and everything and got these really beautiful shots. And then he started to talk to me more. And I told him about this play that I was in with Tim Dang, who was the director emeritus of East West Players, longest running theater of color in America. And and the play it is all for Asian Americans, so it was very much on topic for this documentary. And for me, I was just really grateful to be involved because I had just come back back from Italy. I was there. I had just started kind of doing TV stuff over there, and then I came here, and I really, had no credits or anything. At the time he was filming and interviewing me, and I was just really grateful. I was introduced to a lot of people through this film, and I'm really grateful. So thank you very much, Quentin and Natasha.
Well, thank you. I'm going to go to Amy, and then I'm going to end with Albert, because Albert came on later, pretty much at the end of the shoot. And Amy, let's talk a little bit about your involvement.
Well, you call me and ask me to do things all the time, and what do I say? Yes. So I wasn't aware really of what it was. I feel like I'm always doing things, and I looked at it, and I'm of course going, God, it would have been nice to have better hair and makeup, but it's the real me sitting in my backyard on my deck. And it was a wonderful meeting, Natasha. I don't believe, did I know you before that?
Mm-hmm.
No. And you were just so delightful and so open, and I just felt really comfortable with you immediately. So it was easy. I hope it was easy to edit, because I'm sure I just went on and on and on and on. But thank you very much. It's always been good. Whatever I've said yes to has turned out good. So
I'm glad.
Thank you. I know.
And Albert is actually the latest addition to the project, and actually we're in need of a dad to be cast in Natasha's short film, and you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Natasha and I were in a play at the Geffen Playhouse, Man of God, which had 9 preview performances before it was shut down for COVID. And yeah, it was tragic, but hey, we got to be seen by 9 audiences, so we're blessed to have that at least. And after lockdown, it was just a big lull, and then all of a sudden I get this text from Natasha, or might have been an email, and she said she's working on this documentary and she would love it if I'd be a part of it. So we set up a Zoom meeting like we do now, and I met Quentin and Denise through that, and we had a nice chat, and then we actually, I think in the following days, we met up with 3 children, school-age children, who were going to who would possibly play my son, to audition with me. So that was a really interesting time, because that was my first Zoom audition ever. So that was a kind of a new frontier for me. And then a few weeks following that, we met in a black box in Hollywood. And as Quentin tells it, it was the only one that was renting. Like all of them were closed down, and that was the only one that was renting. So we filmed our scene in there, Natasha's scene that she wrote. And yeah, and that's why I'm here today, and I'm very thankful to be here. When I first heard about the list of luminaries that were involved in this, I was like, oh yeah, I have to do this. I'm obligated to say yes. This is amazing. So I'm very, very proud to be here.
Great. Well, thank you. And actually, that was my first time shooting in COVID, and also testing out my COVID compliance officer certificate, which I got in.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I think we can open up, the questions to the press, and then maybe I can even bring them on and they can ask questions. Matt, how do you want to do it?
So I wrote in the chat if they wanted to ask questions directly there, and then I can relay it to you guys. So attendees, feel free to start typing up your questions. Otherwise, Quentin, you said you could.
I can actually allow them. I think I can just
okay.
Put them
you can
on.
spotlight people.
Yeah. So
okay.
just maybe anybody want to raise their hands, and then I can just put you on, and you can ask questions.
How about for a general question, Quentin, how did you get some of the talent involved, like Sandra and James and Ty, and what was your connection to them?
Yeah, Sandra, I met through just basically a kind of like Canadian connection through Helen, my filmmaker friend. Anyway, so we had dinner a couple of times, and then I just asked my friend Helen, like, can you hook me up with Sandra, because I wanted to Eric wanted to interview her, and she said yes, and she got invited us to her backyard, and we shot the interview. And with Ty, I've actually worked with Ty on a low budget horror film called Chink that got retitled to #1 serial killer, and I really enjoyed hanging out with Ty. So I said I've got to interview Ty. So
very cool. And what was it like interviewing or getting to know Sandra a bit, Natasha?
She provided a lot of really good life advice and industry advice. She's just such a great energy. She walks into a space and then she changes the air, changes the energy. She's just a force to be reckoned with. I think one of the most useful pieces of advice that she told me was, like, people like Christopher Nolan and the Coen brothers, they don't write for people like us. And it's not, we shouldn't get mad about us. They just write from their own experiences. So we should instead work with people that actually do write for us and collaborate with those who appreciate us and want to make work for us. And I think another really useful piece of advice that she told me was that as Asians, we must accept the culture that we come from, but in order to break through in the industry, we have to break the rules and break away from the culture that we came from and start finding freedom in ourselves if we want to see change. So it's like, embrace where you came from, but also break the glass ceiling, break the rules, do your own thing.
That's awesome. Does anyone here, can they kind of share, if anyone wants to? Oh, so Abesi Mañando, she just asked, what do you want Hollywood to understand about the Asian struggle in film? Why don't we start with Amy and then go from there?
I feel like, I don't know if I can get anybody to understand our struggle unless they come from where we come from, because they don't have the experience of it. But I would like them to not dismiss us and our, when we talk about what our struggle is, to listen. And basically, I guess that's all I want, is just people to listen, so that we can maybe affect change from the other side of the camera, with directors and writers and producers who will give us the opportunity to be diverse in our careers, doing different kinds of things. Because I know that within the Asian community, I'm accepted as Asian American. Whatever I'm doing, it started out in theater. But when I started doing things in Hollywood, it was like I didn't look quite right, or I didn't do this right, or, and I'm like, what do you know, you white person? Telling me, an Asian American, that I'm not right. Or sometimes they say, don't do the accent. And I'm like, well, I come from my mother who speaks with a heavy accent. I know I can do a real human, and the accent's just a layer. And this character, I feel like, because they're an immigrant, probably has a little bit of an accent. Anyway, it's just, it's hard working with people who don't come from our culture. So I would love, the ability to have that freedom to express myself in any way I want to, the choices I make.
Awesome. Did anyone else want to chime in? And then I have a question from Rachel from Entertainment Weekly after that.
I can chime in. This question is great because I feel like as Asian American actors, we've been sort of like props to certain like say jokes or stereotypes. I can go back to when I was 7, and where was it 7? When I was a kid, I had an opportunity to be on 7 Years in Tibet, but they said my eyes weren't slanted enough or small enough. Okay, and like, oh, okay, but it's a background role. Okay. And then another audition came up when I was in probably early 20s, and it was a bunch of us in the audition room, and then there was a sign that said, if you're offended by this material, you don't have to audition. We read it, and it happened to be a tourist that was overlooking a big a Godzilla shaped white dude, and he happened to be naked destroying a town, and we had to, our only line was to look through the binoculars and then put down the binoculars and say in a very, very stereotypical accent, "Wow, I've never seen one that big." And of course that alludes to something, right? So like we've been through a lot. That's the struggle, and obviously it's improved a lot more, right? But there's still a lot more room, a lot more stuff that we can improve on. But I feel like what Amy said, and like what everyone's reiterating, we've experienced our own stories, that we have these opportunities to fill in Asians in the writer room, the directors, behind the scenes. These are people that have actually experienced it and know our struggles, and really amplify it and spotlight those things and respect our culture in some kind of way, and I think that's happening, which is great.
Yes, Natasha.
Bouncing off of what Anthony was talking about, I completely agree with what you said, and like I believe progress has been made, but there's still so much more work to be done. I have friends who tell me, oh, I don't think racism is an issue anymore in Hollywood. It's pretty diverse now, isn't it? But we have made progress, but there are still breakdowns that say no monolids, pinky skin, no spots, like must be a certain type of like Asian woman. That just came out like I think a month ago or a few weeks ago. That was like a huge scandal. But I mean, it's like we have made progress, but stuff like that still happens. Like a casting director, like a well-known casting director actually asks for my nationality after an audition, and that, according to SAG rules, that's not allowed. And like, would she have asked that to a white actor? Probably not. So it's like work has been done, but we still need to do more work to move forward.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I could play somebody from London. I could play somebody, because you'll say, I can do a British accent, and they'll say, well, they're, I remember years ago, Bob Newhart had some casting thing, and in the old days, for you older people, you could go to a secret hiding place and unlock a box, and you could find the breakdowns on your own. Now it's available to everybody, but I saw on the Bob Newhart show, there was a character that I thought I could play. And I asked my agent, and the agent said, there are no Asians in Vermont. And I went, it's not, they are not even aware of their racism. They're not aware. This is why we have to make, as actors, we also have to take some responsibility for waking people up to, we can play anything. Even if we look a certain way, there's always a way to rationalize how we look with the character.
And that's why this film is very important, and you
It's so
guys speaking up about this is really, really great. So going to Rachel's question, she asked, as this film has been in development for a few years now, did seeing Anna May Wong's story reach a broader audience? With PBS's Asian Americans doc and Ryan Murphy's Hollywood have any impact when making the film or galvanizing you to make it? So did anyone ever catch the Anna May Wong storyline in Ryan Murphy's Netflix show?
Yes, I mean, I can talk a little bit about that. Was that I think a lot of these shows would develop literally parallel to us developing searching for Anna May Wong. So again, in the beginning, we were just going to plan on doing like a general documentary about Asian American actors, and then we thought, oh, we're interviewing like Anna Wong's grandniece. We should maybe gear it more towards kind of like Anna May Wong, and we thought of like we actually had an actress on board, and she was going to maybe write a play about becoming Anna May Wong. So the final performance, we're thinking, oh, maybe she could like do a dance, kind of like almost kind of become Anna May Wong, and then at the end that didn't happen. So, but we still thought, well, you know what? Let's call it Searching for Anna May Wong because it's kind of like searching for Bobby Fischer. It's just really in the spirit of and of Anna May Wong, but also telling the stories of all these multiple stories of these Asian American actors, and also Natasha's story. So, so that's kind of how it evolved. And by the time I saw, Hollywood and also the Asian American series on PBS, this film is already getting done and edited. So that's kind of where we're at.
Nice. Elizabeth Rust asked, do you feel films like Crazy Rich Asians have helped, as in moving or advancing Asian visibility in Hollywood?
What do you guys think? Albert?
I actually brought that up during my interview portion because I think Natasha asked something similar to that. Like, do you think things are getting better? And I felt that it was because movies like Crazy Rich Asians, shows like Kim's Convenience and Fresh Off the Boat. These were all kind of like, and their predecessors too. I think it's been a few years before that since something like a phenomenon like Crazy Rich Asians happened. I think the last one was probably like Joy Luck Club, where it was just the whole cast was Asian and Asian American. So I believe that it was helpful because it brought a couple of things. It brought to bear that we have people, creative teams behind the camera as well as in front of the camera, the content creators that can make things that will affect people regardless of where you come from. Second, it also brought to bear the fact that there's a market out there for us and that people want to see us and hear our stories. And so that was a very kind of important enlightening kind of moment, I think, for Hollywood, in that money talks, and once you get audiences to appreciate, like I can't remember maybe the box office numbers, Quentin, but it made a big splash, and I think that really kind of opens eyes and like makes people aware that we have something to say.
I mean, absolutely, because I mean, like before, I think Crazy Rich Asians. I mean, I think that everything is working towards this environment for Crazy Rich Asians to become so profitable. But at the same time, that's really a milestone and a marker, just to say that, hey, you know what, we can actually. Because back when I was going to film school, both Justin Lin and I have written all these screenplays with Asian American protagonists, feature screenplays, and people said you can never make that. It would be inconceivable to submit a screenplay with an Asian American protagonist to any type of studio or any type of like production company. So we are basically forced to make our films for like independent budgets, like a couple hundred thousand, under $1 million kind of level. Whereas I think Crazy Rich Asians and The Farewell and those waves of movies become a milestone, saying that yes, now actually Netflix would look at kind of like something with Asian American protagonists.
Also, I feel like the community really rallied around these movies more than ever before. We had that gold open where people were buying out houses, film houses, and really making sure that we had numbers at the box office to support these films. And we still continue to do that, which is good. That makes a huge difference, knowing that the community supports what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I think that movie also, I want to say it's about so much positive things. Like even for me in my personal career, like when Crazy Rich Asians came out, after the first week, I was cast on Grey's Anatomy because of that role. Because that role that I was up for was a white role. And I'm pretty sure I was one of the only Asians that was called into the office. And because that did well, that's why I was on the show. I 100% believe that. And I've actually thanked them for that. But I will also say that just like in the current climate, just like when Obama was not elected president, people thought racism is over. And that clearly isn't true. Just like Crazy Rich Asians gets millions of dollars means that diversity is fixed. That's not true. There's a lot of great things. It's brought so many more great things and opportunities for us, but there's such a big hill that has yet to be explored. I think one of the things too about it is that with the films that come after Crazy Rich Asians, we focus so much on first generation experiences of Asian Americans, and which is great, and it's really impactful on those communities especially. But Asian Americans have been in here in this country since the late 1800s. You could even argue that they were the first Filipinos arrived in 1500 on the West Coast. There is a deep history of Asian Americans who also speak English without an accent, who don't even speak their mother tongue, like in terms of their ethnicity. And that is not something that Hollywood has ever been able to explore, because when they look at you, they think, gotta be holding some chopsticks and speaking Japanese. And I think that's still the dressing that we're still playing with and trying to find things. But without Crazy Rich Asians, we would never even be having this conversation. So I think that
I feel like, again, just like in the 20s and 30s, where Hollywood was getting their film, the writers were coming out of theater. We are now experiencing a huge influx of wonderful Asian American playwrights who are finding their way into the film and television, for sure, television. And they're creating stories that are eye-opening, that explore our experiences as Asian Americans, and in a really new and interesting way. So, I have a lot of hope that the writers that are coming up are going to bust us open out of the old, generational stories, which, still are valid, but will bring us to another level of creativity that expresses our experiences.
Awesome. So Alan Ing from Film Threat, he asked, growing up in we were pretty much forbidden by our parents to consider careers in Hollywood. What do you think of the overall impact of the low supply of quality Asian actors? I think that's maybe referring to how there's a small pool of Asian actors to really choose from. So maybe they go back to those certain actors only, and maybe not giving a broader opportunity to more Asian actors, if I'm correct in assuming that.
Amy, you should start. I think that you have a lot of thoughts about this.
I think Hollywood is very simplistic in that I know that I probably work a lot. I'm very lucky, but also, it's like they go, oh, she knows she'll show up on time, she'll hit her mark, she knows her lines. You know what I mean? It's not, to a certain extent, there's some talent involved, but they just want somebody safe who has a little bit of a Q rating from my perspective. But when I see what's out there, I think it's from my youth, because my generation never thought they'd make a living doing anything in this business, ever. So, theater was our first choice, and, there's no money to be made in theater. So I was always happy if I could just pay the rent. You know what I mean? So, but now I look around and there are people who are getting degrees in film. Like Quentin got his degree from Yale as a filmmaker. I mean, there are kids coming up that are Asian American who don't see these as boundaries. They are challenges perhaps, but they believe that they can do so much more. And they're really well trained and they're really talented. Like Natasha, look at her. I know it's still a struggle, Natasha, but you know, I have every hope that, you know, once you break that little plexiglass ceiling, it's not going to be that hard. Once you break that, you get your first series, they're gonna be bugging you constantly. But it's just that one thing, like Trista Marie Liu, or I forgot her name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Trista Marie Liu. Yeah.
you. I'm bad with names, but look at, she got Star Wars, right? Is that it? Star Wars?
Kelly
I never
Marie
watched any
Tran.
of
Kelly
them.
Marie Tran. We're thinking of somebody else.
Oh, Kelly Marie Tran. Tristan's
Yeah.
on that television
She's on-
show.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
hell, I
the
don't
Tim
remember
Allen
names.
one.
I'm so good. But I do know them, I think. Trista, I know. Anyway, fuck me. But you know, it's not like they were around forever. They were around for a little bit, and then somehow, you know, it's like a talent meeting opportunity, being ready for it. They got it, and then it's like they're just doing everything. So it's just, if you love this business, you will continue to just forge ahead, and there will be a moment where you'll break through, and then then it's kind of easier. You have to do that little breakthrough.
Natasha?
Natasha, yeah.
I feel like on the subject of, you know, having immigrant parents who aren't really supportive, I feel like it takes a lot of grit to be able to go through this particular industry. Personally, like my parents, they did not support me wanting to pursue a career in acting. And in fact, my mom was physically abusive, and like we got into like physical fights about me pursuing acting. But I feel like if anything, this helped me, because it's like, wow, my own parents don't believe in me and don't want me to pursue this. So like, I basically have nothing to lose now. That basically farther.
You know, so I definitely grew up in the 80s, and there was definitely Long Duck Dong and all these kind of interesting characters. But at the same time, I think that when I started making films in 1993, I really wanted to make like gay Asian films. So, and I couldn't find any actors who want to be in my films. So I had to actually star in my own first few short films. And then eventually I came to UCLA for film school, and me and Justin Lin were making this first feature called Shopping for Fangs. And I remember John Cho sent in a headshot, and then I said, oh, he went to Cal, let's call him in. And immediately came in, both Justin and I think, okay, he's a character. So he ends up playing this gay Singaporean character in Justin and my first feature, Shopping for Fangs. And then he went on to become like a big star. But then since then, it's hard to get him back in my films. So there's this cycle that I'm able to, again, like Randall Park was, you know, I think Randall came in and he was just fresh out of UCLA. And then I put him in The People I've Slept With. And obviously he kind of blew up from there. And so I do say that I have discovered quite a lot of like kind of like, you know, up and coming Asian American actors. But then I think sometimes once they have become bigger, it's kind of hard to kind of go back and work with them again because of the, you know, my budget levels at some point. So, so that's, I'm not sure if I'm answering that question, but that's been my experience a little bit. But lately I'm shooting this improv gay Asian TV series called Boy Luck Club. I met this kid and he's like, oh, I'm in this all gay Asian improv group. I said, oh, really? Okay, let's do it. So that's how it became, you know. So I'm glad, like, you know, I really do see there's progress in terms of even as my coming of age as a filmmaker, that eventually I can see there are more and more people getting involved. But in the beginning, I think there was just not a lot of people that you can actually get them to work on your film.
Did Albert have
Yeah.
a comment?
Yeah, just to piggyback what Amy was saying with Kelly Marie Tran, I think now is also a cool time where Asian American kids can like take up space, whereas previous generations, those of us who are a little longer in the tooth, didn't have those opportunities.
Mhm.
And kids now can totally attract eyeballs. And like Kelly Marie Tran had a YouTube following before she was a Star Wars star, you know, and we have people who
Really? I
are,
didn't know that.
Who knew?
Yeah.
and Quentin is an Asian American producer, director, and can make these decisions on our behalf and bring us into the limelight, whereas previously there was a very small number of people with Quentin's profile. So like there is a gradual shift that's happening right now where like people are taking up space. People are saying,
Mhm.
I am deserved to be seen. So that's a really cool
Yeah.
thing that's happening. Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. That is the attitude shift that's happened. I mean, when I was coming up, it was like, I'll just stay in my little corner. I won't bother anybody. I didn't ever think I had the right to be in that space. And the young people now do, and it makes me so happy.
Yeah,
Definitely in the in this.
growing up. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say when I was growing up, pretty much the only Asian actor I could recognize was B.D. Wong.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, and just being able to see that there's so many more new Asian faces that we're discovering has really shown that there's been a huge shift and a big change. And even, I mean, I still audition as well, just a little FYI, but when I would go in, there would be like the same 5 Asian guy actors. Like I'd be going against the same 5 Asian guys all the time, like every single time. And now when I've, gone into, when there were in-person auditions, there would be more faces that I hadn't seen before. So I think that's also a testament to how things have changed. But yeah,
Mhm.
Kurt, what were you going to add in?
No, I was definitely going to add what you're saying too about the TV. I remember I used to play. I'm from LA, so like I guess like I grew up on the West Side. So in theory, I grew up in this. But when I would watch TV with my mom, I remember we would always like literally point at the screen whenever an Asian person came up, and there would be very many evenings where that would never happen. And there was always, when it would happen, if they were in the background or like or like a random commercial like literally passed for a second, like Asian. But like that literally, there'd be nights where that would never happen. And I think I agree that like yes, we have more platforms to showcase our talent, but I came up, I was a musician first, and I think as a like there were a lot more Asian. I think there's just, because of the suffocating effect of Hollywood and television that just does not allow any visual representation of different races, at least in the 80s, like in that time. I just knew in my head, even though I went to school with people who were in film and stuff, I just like, this not even a possibility. But when you were a musician or a dancer or a singer or a writer, there were other platforms of which you could express yourself, and which there are a lot of Asians right now who have, like, in design and all that, and who have just threw themselves into these fields. And I think it's really interesting to see a lot of them realize too the power of utilizing that and coming back now into this space where we were never allowed to be in, and sharing that experience. So I think there actually is a lot of talent and like out there. They literally have just not been shining. So it's not a dearth of, what you're in your question, what slightly, it's not that there's a low quality supply. It's just literally that there is a huge supply that has not been shown yet. So I think that's, it's nothing to do with quality, in my opinion. Yeah. How many random actors, white actors, literally did nothing, or were the son or daughter of something and won an Academy Award? Like, so this quality conversation definitely clearly irks me. But I mean, like, because there is just so much about just that little opportunity, or even the thought to think, yes, there's an Asian in Vermont. Yes, there are Asians. Like,
Yeah.
you can tell a Pearl Harbor story and see Asian Americans. It's not going to confuse people, because, like, you know, you can tell stories about the gold rush and see, you know,
Right.
Asian Americans. We exist everywhere and have existed, and I think we just need to expand our minds a little bit more and not worry so much about the quality.
Awesome. So if there are no more questions from the press, maybe give them a second to see if there's anything else. But otherwise, I would love to see if we could start wrapping this up with people's final thoughts on the film and just overall the presence and visibility of, you know, being Asian in Hollywood means to you guys. Also, Anthony, I just realized that Stanley Walker in your background.
Yeah.
Maybe you put Asians in the office.
Yeah. Oh, there were no Asians in the office. You're right.
No, there was
Oh,
Mindy
sure. That's
Kaling.
true.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
She's South Asian,
Right. Right.
and she blew up.
Right. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I guess I'll start. No, this has been great. I feel like, you know, with every project, with everything like Crazy Rich Asians down to something like Searching for Anna May Wong, it is progress for us, you know, and it educates everyone about our struggle. I love pointing out to my son, my 1-year-old son right now, like, this could be you one day. Okay. You're gonna dance, you're gonna act, you're gonna sing, you can do anything you want, because these people are proving it. And they're, like what you guys said, taking space, and you can take that space too. And it's just a wonderful, yeah, if you can hear him right now, he's screaming. He's like, yes, he's agreeing. So yeah, it's just great. Keep going, guys. We got this.
He's saying, yeah, Dad.
I'm sure Amy could speak more to it, but also the more, at least in my experience, the more auditions that I get where I see that the writer was Asian American, the more interesting the project is, like, versus something that's a little bit more exoticized. You know, usually you'll notice that the last names don't match any of yours. So I think more and more people who are writing are really helping us. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Albert, or?
Just going back to what Amy said about having those of us who are, I guess this would be what, fourth, fifth wave Asian American playwrights coming in and writing all these wonderful plays. I think that's going to make a big difference, and having decision makers, directors that are Asian American, that's going to be make a big difference. I think we are gradually making strides. We definitely we haven't reached parity yet. I don't know when that will come, but we are still othered in Hollywood. We are still seen as the foreigner in many aspects, but in small strides, we are taking up more and more market share, basically. And that's what needs to happen for Hollywood, because it's a business. That's what needs to happen for them to realize that there's gold out there to be mined. You know, there are stories worth hearing that have not been discovered yet, that have not been told for any number of reasons, but that we are here and we're ready when they're ready to. And that's the other thing too. Right now is a time where I think a lot of the creators, a lot of writers, producers, directors who are Asian American, they're not waiting for permission anymore. And I think that is also a big shift from, let's say, you know, the end of the last century, you know, where people were waiting, you know, for scraps from the table. I think a lot of the creators now, they're just taking up space and making sure that regardless of who. They're not waiting for permission, basically.
Piggybacking off of what Albert said, I feel like in addition to having more Asian actors, more Asian writers, more Asian directors, I feel like there needs to be more Asian representation and all representation for like, we need like more Asian executive producers, studio heads, people below the line, like just all across the board. I feel like Hollywood is taking some initiative and helping us move forward. But yeah, it's like been baby steps, but I feel like hopefully we get closer and closer and closer to equality in the near future. I feel like one thing a mentor once told me that really stuck with me, his name is Chris Chalk, and he told me in order to change the game, in order to change the industry, you need to play the game first. And like, even though you're limited to one type of role and maybe they're only pigeonholing you in one type of thing, he says, like, make money doing that and like make connections doing that thing. And then once you get to a certain level, then you can start changing the industry, changing the game in your favor. So I thought that was really helpful for, as an actor, to tell me that.
Amy, anything else that you wanted to add?
Me? Did you say Amy?
Yeah.
You know, I've never been able to, I mean, since high school, I've been a character actor. And within the Asian American genre, I've played in theater. I started with the Asian American Theater Company, one of the people who started that thing going. And we wrote our stories. We portrayed the people in those stories. Of course, there were a lot of camp plays. So I did a lot of that. But I've always been sort of attracted to different characters, and I wasn't thinking about, and I also did a lot of sketch comedy in San Francisco, and we had an Asian American sketch comedy team that worked together. We did improv and sketch comedy. Anyway, so we explored all the different things, people, characters in our communities, and it was so much fun and it filled our passion. And so I'm kind of like, if you just, I know this sounds so, I don't know, la-di-da, but I feel like I don't want to try to pigeonhole myself into anything. I would like to just explore and be creative. And within the community, sometimes I know I'd be on tour and people would say, well, you can't be funny because then people will be laughing at us. And I thought, well, I laugh at my mom sometimes. She's weird and funny. We have to embrace who we are and all the possibilities, be the best person, best character, authentic person that you can create. But, I feel like let's not follow the rules. Let's just blow everybody out of the water by what we create. And hopefully people will pay us. Who knows?
Well, thank you very much. And thank you very much to the actors for coming back and being on this panel. And thank you to the journalists for being here. I think I'm going to post this both on the Asian American Movies Facebook page and also as a free extra on the Asian American Movies site for this film. And I'll probably post it somewhere else on YouTube. But thank you very much. I think we're good, right? We can wrap.
Yes, and just to reiterate for any press that might have missed it, the film is now on schedule to be digitally released on November 20th instead of in person at Laemmle Theaters, and the updated press release is in the chat, so you can check that out. And yeah, that's about it.
Great, thank you so much, and see you guys soon.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Well, stay well.
Right.